Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, July 14th, 2021, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I host the most Will Buchanan on How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before I do get started, I do let everybody know that this is a family-friendly podcast. At least we try to be. So we do try to watch our language, and then sometimes words may fly that are highly questionable. And sometimes we may show things that might be graphic or may not be suitable for young viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. Well, how do we start off this wonderful hump day? I know how we started off. Karens.
This lady on the phone, she accused me of stealing her son's phone. Followed me outside the store. First she was eyeing me in the store. As soon as her son happened to lose her phone, I guess I was around looking for blinds and she started looking at me. And I know I'm black with tattoos, so she automatically assumes I had it. She said the location says it's me. I have her son's phone, but she's followed me outside of Walmart. I'm here in Moreno Valley. She came looking for a location, but it's right by my car. She runs up to me and says, "Excuse me, you have my son's phone?" I pull my phone out and tell her I do not, as well as my money and my ID, and tell her who I am and I do not steal. And she continues. She's holding me. The only reason I'm not leaving is because I don't have a phone. That's why I'm not leaving. What's your name, ma'am, if you don't mind me asking? Is it okay if I have your name?
Let's call the cops.
No problem at all.
Now you're recording me.
No problem. I have a right to.
I didn't come out here and say, excuse me, do you have my son's phone?
But when I told you, no, you did.
I did not come at you like that.
You did.
No, I did not.
You did.
Sir,
and when you're running after me and following me, believe me, I've been racially profiled so long.
Hello?
And I'm very scared of that.
Yes. See. Okay. All right, bye.
You understand I'm waiting, right? Because you're wrong.
Then let's fix this. We'll wait until the police are here. You decide it yourself.
What will happen when you're wrong? What happens? What do I get? Just an apology?
Sure.
That's not good enough.
No, we're staying here until you give me my phone because it marks that you're here.
I don't have a phone.
No.
Ma'am, you're really crazy. You're following me now.
Now I am. Because that phone has cost me money.
Not good enough. A sorry person isn't good enough for me.
Bullshit, and now I am accusing you. You said you were staying here because you have nothing to.
You're accusing me.
So let's go ahead and
Thank you. Here, come on. We can walk back up to the front. There's too many cars passing. No problem at all. Now you see me, right? Everybody know me. I'm definitely pressing charges of racially profile. You guys see it on camera yourself. The phone should be following us, right? Right? If I have a phone, it should be following me. I haven't even got to my car yet. So if I stole the phone, it'd be in my pocket, right? She's not smart enough to know that, but this is why she's going to be charged back there. I'm going to let you know, see you lady, because my wife will be dealing with you. How you doing, ma'am? How you doing?
Yes, I'm here.
She accused me of stealing a phone, man. She ran after me. First thing was happening in the store, man. Like, it was kind of vibing when I guess she lost her phone because I heard her say, "Where's your phone?" I seen a little boy walk over and punch her, man. I'm looking for blinds for my family at my house. I go to my car, man. She runs after. I'm recording right now, just so you know.
No,
She runs after me. Well, this is for my safety. She runs after me. She runs after me. Says, "You have my son's phone." And then I tell her, right? Yeah. And then I tell her, right, I don't have a phone. I pull my wallet out. I show her I don't need to steal anything at all. And if I had a phone, it would be in my pocket because I haven't made it to my car. Oh, I have it on video, her accusing me. I have it, her accusing me on video. So I tell her, I'm not even going to leave. So I'm not going to hide. But I asked her, so what's going to happen? Are we going to call the police? That's cool. But what happens when the police say I don't have a phone? Then what? Oh, I'm just going to get a sorry. That's when I was going to hop in my car, man, because I have a family. You know what I'm saying? I'm a married man sitting here dealing with this woman's irateness because her husband can't, our son can't be responsible for a phone. That's not my fault. But being racially profiled, that's going to be
When
hers.
we were in the parking lot, it was marking him like right there, but I can't.
Where's that now? Still marking me? They should follow us, right? If I have the phone, right, it should follow us in the store.
I am going to.
She accused me, and it's okay because I have everybody's face that's involved.
But I'm not, I just, you know why I went up to him? It was marking like right there, but I can't.
No, I can't for my safety. Everybody I'm involving, I understand. When she racially profiled me, her son found the phone. Her son found it, though. It was in the car. Her son found it in the car. So now I'm going to press charges. Ma'am, may I have your name, please? May I have your name, please, ma'am?
No.
No? Okay, that's okay. I'll get your license plate. I seen where your son went to the car. Have your license plate. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Now let's think about this for a second, folks. That was a story that just got released. As the man said, another Karen, and you know, this is usually where Roland Martin does his crazy ass white people, but I had to show that. I had to share this story just because number one, we as black people, we're already racially profiled. We are by everybody. But I don't know what it is about this latest crop of white people that just think that they can just roll up on us and think they can accuse us of something, or believe that they can act in any type of authority, that think they can do something. White people, let me tell you something. You Mayos and Hellmans out there, I'm talking about y'all. Y'all gonna run up on the wrong one. And when you run up on the wrong one, don't look at the rest of us for help. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna put you on World Star. That's how I'm gonna do. Because Miss Kaiser Permanente, because it's kind of funny. Number one, if you work for said company, you shouldn't probably wear the shirt. Because especially I can see Kaiser Permanente on there. At the same time, this is the reason why black people have to record. I mean, we talk about law enforcement officers wearing body cams. Black people have to wear body cams these days. Why? Because of crap like that. She sat there for the longest time. You have my son's phone. You have my son's phone. My son pointed to you. He lost his phone. You were right there. You must have his phone. Okay, so white people, let me point out something to you. This is an amazing device. It's wonderful. It's monumental. It's besides the Find My Phone app that's available on iPhone and on Android, Find My Android, there's a wonderful thing that you can do that can definitely make sure that you know someone has the phone. Call the phone. The whole time the lady was sitting right there. The entire time the lady was sitting right there. Call the phone. If he had the phone, and I know the young man, the young gentleman at the time was just defending himself, saying, well, you know, you accused me, I didn't have the phone, you followed me out here, I don't have your phone. And the woman was so insistent that he had the phone. Well, if that's the case, call the phone. Most phones these days, security-wise, you need a Face ID, biometrics like a fingerprint or something like that, or you know a code. But if he just took the phone and the phone was locked, call the phone. Not that hard. But again, She never called. She never called the phone, and he said the whole time like, "I'll wait," because he already knows. See, here's the thing: he was already accused, and when he was about to be unaccused, he was ready to press charges, which he was in his rights to do, because he sat there and asked the man, "Ma'am, I'm recording this. May I have your name? I'm recording this." And you notice how quickly she dodged it. "May I have your name? May I have your name?" And the thing about this is, it's funny. I won't say it's funny. It's real messed up. But again, this is this whole thing of just accusing. When they accuse, that always comes back to haunt people. And in her case, it's definitely gonna come back to haunt her, because as we saw at the end of the video, the boy had the phone, and he's sitting there the whole time. "Oh, so your son had the phone the entire time? Okay." And she tried to sit there and explain her, No. I asked you," and then he goes, "Oh no, now that you've humiliated me, you wasted my time. Now we're going to go ahead and press charges." In which she decided she was just going to just run back into Walmart like, "You know what? Go F yourself." Really? After all the stink that you made, calling the police and having them up there and going into Walmart, you decided you were in the wrong. And then he goes, and it's kind of funny where you knew it was going to be bad, where he goes, "Well, once I'm validated and once you're wrong, I'm getting an apology, right?" She just, "I mean, you might." And he goes, "That's not good enough." And I love the fact he said, "My wife will be taking care of this." Smart man indeed. So I always sit there and tell people this, that there is nothing wrong with recording, because in this day and age, you have to have video. Because if anything, because I'll be dead honest with you guys, if he didn't have that video, that could have went completely and utterly and horribly wrong. Because like I said, when it comes to profiling, we are seen as the aggressors. We're automatically seen as guilty. We're automatically seen as anything else but decent individuals, just because we're accused by somebody else. And she tried not to give her name. Ma'am, this is the internet. The reason why you're being recorded is because somebody, somewhere, can find out who you are. It doesn't take much. And I know the internet's going to do its thing, because if there's anything that it's good at, it is making idiotic white people famous. And she was wearing a Kaiser Permanente shirt, so I'm pretty sure that was sent to them, and they will have no problem locating who that said person is. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody that knows her goes, "Oh, I know who that is. That's so-and-so." Again, wait a couple of days, and more than likely, she'll probably lose her job. And that's another thing I so want to point out. If you are so sure, aside from calling the phone, and then you don't sit there and you don't man up to your decision, you don't man up to the outcome of what you did. It's like, you were wrong. Just say you were wrong, and just say, "I apologize. I just believed my son. I sincerely apologize to you. If you want to press charges, I'm not going to fight you. I will give you all my information to go ahead and process a report." Do the honorable, responsible adult thing. But it wasn't done. Pretty much, go F yourself as she walks in Walmart. Probably mad at the world, because now she has egg on her face. The problem is, the entire world knows who you are. It will not be too long until we have a name with a face. Just like every other Karen and Dolores out there, we eventually find out who you are, and nature takes care of itself. But moving right along, guys, I did want to actually talk about Tennessee, because, again, Tennessee is in the news. And, again, I know I live in Tennessee. It is probably the most progressively backward state I've ever seen, aside from Mississippi and Texas and Florida, at a fatal four-way match to see who can outdo who, or as I like to call it, the Hold My Beer Championship. Tennessee decided that we're going to get rid of our top COVID person because, well, they don't like facts.
In the U.S., virtually all new COVID deaths and hospitalizations are among unvaccinated people. Doctors say they're seeing more and more young people hospitalized with the virus. And COVID vaccines have been approved for emergency use in anyone over the age of 12, but only 25% of 12 to 15-year-olds are fully vaccinated right now, less than 40% of 16 and 17-year-olds. And that's one of the reasons that Dr. Michelle Fiscus, Tennessee's top immunization official, wrote a memo that suggested some teenagers might be able to get vaccinated against COVID without their parents' permission. State Republicans were quick to accuse Fiscus of applying, quote, peer pressure to get young kids vaccinated. Now, Fiscus says she was fired after simply doing her job of raising vaccine awareness among teenagers. The health department that fired her is putting an end to all vaccine outreach for teens for all diseases, not just COVID. And joining me now is Dr. Michelle Fiscus, who until yesterday served as Tennessee's medical director for vaccine preventable diseases and immunization programs. Doctor, it's great to have you in the program. I thought maybe we just first start with telling us what was your job? What was your role in the public health agency there, particularly in with respect to COVID in the state of Tennessee?
Well, as medical director of the Tennessee Vaccine Preventable Diseases and Immunization Program, I was responsible for the Vaccines for Children program, which is an entitlement program for children who are insured by Medicaid or don't have insurance, to make sure that they can get the immunizations they need. I'm responsible for the Tennessee Immunization Information System, which is the immunization registry for the state. And I'm responsible for vaccine preventable disease outbreak mitigation and response. So hepatitis A outbreaks, measles outbreaks, and then eventually COVID-19 became a vaccine preventable disease. And I was responsible for the rollout of that vaccine across the state and to make sure that that was done equitably and in a way that any Tennessean who wanted to access the vaccine would be able to get one.
From your perch, what have the challenges been in your state to getting a higher vaccination rate than what you currently have?
Well, we've had several. Initially it was vaccine supply. Fortunately, that is no longer an issue. Then it became getting providers to be willing to give the vaccines, because there have been challenges just with logistics of dry ice storage and large quantities for minimum orders with some of the vaccines. And then there is vaccine hesitancy, which we have seen in different ways. Some folks that are unsure about the government, unsure about the vaccine, but are vaccine hesitant and willing to have conversations with their providers, willing to listen to information that's given to them. And then this political divide, or this kind of toxic politicization of COVID-19 and the vaccine, where we now have our most hesitant population being rural, male, conservative whites, who really do hang their hat on this political ideology that COVID-19 isn't real, isn't a threat, or that getting the vaccine somehow props up the left-wing part of our political system. And so it's really that politicization of public health and in people's choosing not to protect themselves that has been the biggest challenge for us to overcome.
So you were discussing, I understand, memorializing sort of what the legal authority, what the sort of parameters were for vaccine outreach to teenagers, and that's what triggered this firestorm that led to your firing or resignation. What happened?
So, on the cusp of the Pfizer vaccine becoming available for children 12 years and older, I began to receive questions from some of our COVID-19 vaccine providers across the state about what they were to do if a child showed up unaccompanied to receive a vaccine. And they just weren't sure where the lines were. So I reached out to our Office of General Counsel at Department of Health. I was given language around Tennessee's mature minor doctrine, which is case law from 1987, a Tennessee Supreme Court ruling that children ages 14 and older can receive medical care under their own consent without the consent of their parent. And I took that language that I was told in an email was blessed by the governor's office and that I could share with anyone that I so choose, put it into an email to our COVID-19 providers and sent it out. And over time, over a very short period of time, there was some backlash from some of our providers who felt that that was an inappropriate email or memo to put out, that the information shouldn't have been shared, and that it was somehow targeting our youth, even though this was a memo sent to our medical providers, like every other memo we send to our medical providers. That then sparked some backlash from some members of our legislature who went so far as to call for the dissolution of the State Department of Health because of this information that I had shared. And that has now devolved into the Department of Health not only pulling back on messaging to teenagers about getting COVID-19 vaccine, but creating barriers for their ability to access the vaccine, and now has devolved into a moratorium on messaging for any kind of vaccine to children, whether that's infants or children for back to school vaccines or HPV vaccines, and even canceling school-based flu immunization clinics scheduled for the fall as a result of the saber rattling amongst some of our legislators.
So you basically check the legality. You send the state Supreme Court decision of Tennessee, right, to say this is what the law says, right? This backlash ensues. You are then fired quickly in the last little bit here. Who fired you?
I was fired by the Commissioner of Health via a letter that was delivered to me by the Chief Medical Officer of the department and a member of the Human Resources team. I was offered the opportunity to resign or to be terminated, and I have done my job very well, serving the people of Tennessee, and that is my job, and so I chose to be terminated.
I want to read, you said, I've been terminated for doing my job because some of our politicians have bought into the anti-vaccine misinformation campaign rather than taking the time to speak with medical experts. I'm afraid for my state. I'm angry for the amazing people at Tennessee Department of Health who have been mistreated by an uneducated public and leaders who have their own interests in mind. Dr. Michelle Fiscus, I am sorry that happened to you, but thank you so much for the work you've done and for making time tonight.
Okay, so let's think about this for a second, folks. That was actually the former COVID-19 individual, COVID-19 watchdog for the state of Tennessee, and she got fired for doing her job. She literally looked into, for all those that are just now watching this, hello, how you doing? But what was explained in that interview was she was literally checking the legality because they were about to start introducing information that teenagers over the age of 14, 15 can be vaccinated because the data suggested it. So she decided that she wanted to go through legal just to make sure that she did the whole cover your butt rule, as you should do in life, right? So anyway, so basically, as they were doing this, you had those out there, or I like to call them the misinformed idiots of Tennessee, who are also in public office, decide that they cannot allow this to be done because of their own personal feelings toward COVID-19. And so, as you heard her say, which eventually did lead to her being fired. Again, this is Tennessee. Y'all guys wonder why I say Tennessee is progressively backwards? Tennessee is progressively backwards for this very reason. They will believe in angels first before they believe in science. And I'm not knocking the fact of religion. I am saying that's how high religion is when it comes to the South. Religion and science and common sense. And then somewhere in the middle you have stupidity. But it's amazing to me how in the world someone can be fired for simply doing their job. Their job. That's the part that kills me out of all this. That for the simple fact of the matter is, you have people literally and figuratively doing their job. And she points out something that I wanted to go ahead and say, because again, she talks about misinformation. And for a lot of people who don't understand how misinformation works, I have the perfect video for you.
Propaganda in politics and on TV that is risking and costing American lives.
45 states are seeing a sharp rise in new infections due largely to the Delta variant, 10% higher than the previous week. And in 34 states, new cases are up 50% higher than last week. Officials attribute that to the unvaccinated population and the rise of the highly transmissible Delta variant. 99% of the people dying from COVID right now are unvaccinated. More than 99%, in fact. An emergency room doctor told us this week that all of the sick COVID patients he is seeing are unvaccinated. All of them. And yet to some, this is just a show. A deadly show.
It makes you think, once you think about it, that maybe none of this is really about COVID. Maybe it's about social control.
And this has never, Sean, been about following the science. It's never been about following the facts and the truth. It's been about control from day one.
I mean, I don't. This is I honestly think this is the greatest scandal of my lifetime by far. I thought the Iraq War was. This seems much bigger than that.
607,771 Americans have died of the coronavirus. More than 99% of the people dying from COVID right now are unvaccinated.
Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but when I've always thought about vaccines, and I always think about just nature and the way everything works. And I feel like a vaccination in a weird way is just generally kind of going against nature. Like, I mean, if there is some disease out there, maybe there's just an ebb and flow to life where something's supposed to wipe out a certain amount of people, and that's just kind of the way evolution goes. Vaccines kind of stand in the way of that.
607,771 Americans have died of coronavirus. 99% of the people dying right now are unvaccinated.
So maybe it doesn't work, and they're simply not telling you that. Well, you hate to think that, especially if you've gotten 2 shots. But what's the other potential explanation?
In Los Angeles, where cases are up right now, none of the hospitals has admitted a single COVID patient who was fully vaccinated. The director says, quote, "At this point, this really is a preventable illness, a preventable infection."
This truly is the optional portion of the pandemic. To underscore that point, the Biden administration is sending people to communities to educate those who are misinformed or maybe skeptical of the vaccine. They're not showing up to force needles.
The Biden administration is about to take their pressure campaign to your doorstep. Now, Republican officials are already pushing back, and this is great. Missouri's Governor Mike Parson politely told the feds to take their vaccine evangelization elsewhere.
Don't come knocking on my door with your Fauci ouchie. You leave us the hell alone.
And now they're starting to talk about going door to door to be able to take vaccines to the people. Think about what those mechanisms could be used for. They could then go door to door, take your guns. They can go door to door, take your Bibles.
They're going to knock on your door. They're going to demand that you take it, and they're going to give you a 3rd shot.
When it comes to medical privacy, they've become like the Taliban, which is a real problem.
The focus of this administration on vaccination is mind-boggling.
Again, 607,771 Americans have died of the virus, and 99% of the people dying right now are unvaccinated.
At Turning Point USA, we are going to give it everything we have to make sure that students are not going to have to live in a medical apartheid because they don't want to get the vaccine. This is a big statement, but it's almost this apartheid-style open-air hostage situation, like, oh, you can have your freedom back if you get the jab.
It is just undeniable that being vaccinated will open up freedoms to work, to play, to accelerate the economy, and quite frankly, to keep breathing.
Overall, the equation is very unfavorable for vaccination of anyone below age 30. Unless we really have a compelling case, no one under age 30 should receive any one of these vaccines.
In Miami, the hospital system is seeing a surge. They are seeing a surge in COVID cases among people in their 30s and 40s, twice as many patients this past weekend than they had earlier in the month.
And then in Tennessee, the Republican-led state just fired its vaccination chief over what she says were efforts to get teens vaccinated. And now, because of politics, the state is scrapping all outreach to children for any vaccine, not just for COVID, for all diseases.
I cannot believe that we are on the verge, against all science, of mandating vaccines for children, that we are on the verge of East German style. Show me your papers.
There are so many good flight attendants out there, but there are some flight attendants out there that take their job as the mask police to extremes, becoming almost Nazis of the air.
Millions of Americans are seeing this nonsensical, non-scientific propaganda instead of this.
$607,771 Americans have died of the coronavirus. 99% of the people dying right now are unvaccinated.
Children are dying in other countries that don't have access to vaccines of any kind. Many of the Americans who died last year would not have died with the vaccine currently available right now for free. 607,771 Americans dead. Some, many, maybe even most of whom would be alive today if the vaccine had been there in time for them.
And when history asks how so many Americans died when they could have been saved by a simple shot or two, you'll see these TV clips again that we've just shown in documentaries about the cautionary tale that has been America's response to the coronavirus pandemic, about how a large part of our country, misled by information often echoed by elected officials and right-wing media, was thrown a life raft and instead said, no, I'll take my chances.
Think about that for a second. 7 minutes, right? 7 minutes, how long that video was. 7 minutes to where all they did was just sit there and show facts. They showed facts of how many people have died, how many people died from the COVID-19 virus. And Fox News, Newsmax, which were the only, which was two of them now, have sat there and you've seen various people and various folks literally sit there and downplay the virus like it was nothing. Like it was nothing. How? Again, and again, they mentioned Tennessee because again, Tennessee had fired their COVID-19 watch person and then decided to suspend all information, not just for vaccinations for COVID-19, but for all known vaccinations. Yes, and we wonder how the measles made a comeback. I'm hoping smallpox doesn't make a comeback. I'm hoping polio doesn't make a comeback. But again, this just shows you how serious it all is. This just shows you off the bat that yes, people watch Fox News. People watch Fox News. People will still, above all else, swear by Fox News. And it is amazing to me the level of just sheer stupidity. That's about the best way I could put that. Sheer stupidity. Because how else in the world could you sit there and say COVID-19 isn't real? People have died from this. And I hate to keep bringing up the number. We're close. I mean, 667. I mean, you saw the number that was put up there. I almost want to say almost 700,000. I almost want to say that. And I shouldn't have to say that. But again, it's amazing how so many people go, well, I'm not going to get the shot. Okay. I stopped saying a long time ago, what's your alternative? Because you don't have an answer. You'd rather sit there with your head in the sand because you believe you uneducated individuals who have no medical degree. You're not a virologist. You're not a medical professional. But you still believe that you're right over somebody who's educated. And you wonder why I say Tennessee is progressively backwards. But again, I shouldn't be surprised by that. But I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get some flack, but I'm gonna get some flack from somebody about that. But anyway, moving right along, guys, I actually wanted to talk about this next thing I found, where you've probably seen this sign on social media, and I still laugh. But this is the sign of fast food these days. I mean, the service industry as we know it, you're going to see a lot of signs like this. That Burger King sign that says, "We all quit. Sorry for the inconvenience." Yes, because that was actually a Burger King in Lincoln, Nebraska that, people couldn't. I mean, the workers there said that it was you know, the air conditioning wasn't fixed. They were working in very hot conditions, unbearable conditions. And at the same time, COVID made sure that some people even quit or looked for other jobs, which eventually did lead to just everybody quitting, including the manager there. In which Burger King decided to sit there and say, well, we don't, well, you know, we can't, we'll do the best we can, but we'll find people who actually want to work there. Now, I've been saying this, guys, the entire time of this COVID-19 pandemic. And I hate to sound like that guy. I hate to sound like the boy who cried wolf, but the wolves have long since come through here. The federal minimum wage needs to be risen. I have been saying this. I've actually got into economical conversations with so-called smart money people, and I've said this all the time. You point out to me a historical point in the U.S. where low wages to the middle and lower class led to overall economic growth to the country as a whole, because it hasn't. I mean, that, like I said before, even the $15 an hour, thing, you probably hear, you know, the 5 for 15, that by most standards is based on one person, is based on a single person household at the cheapest area where they live at. For if you're a couple or you're a family of at least one child or two children, $15 an hour ain't gonna cut it. And a lot of these places, like Burger King, like McDonald's, like Taco Bell, or whatever fast food joint you're at, let us be honest, the larger workforce has always been in the food and service industry. That being said, even in my home state of Tennessee, even specifically where I live in Nashville, on the weekends, well, usually it's my cheat day, I have learned that yes, during the day, I probably have no problem getting food from any of those places. During the day. Imagine if I turn around and try to go out at night. You know why it becomes a food desert. Except for a couple places. McDonald's surprisingly still has people come in, but it's a line around the block. Waffle House may some areas, but every other place closed down early. Why? Short staffing. Why? Nobody wants to kill themselves over $8 to $9 an hour anymore. Not when rent is well over $1,400, $1,500 in some places. Not where you still have to pay for your child's. Not when grocery bills are going up, gas bills are going up, energy bills are going up. That you getting a paycheck at $7 to $12 an hour simply not going to cut it. And I have been saying this since Jump Street. If the federal minimum wage was equal to the production out of this country, the minimum wage right now would be $20. It could be anywhere between $20 and $25 an hour. Now think about that. A lot of people sit there and say, but so you're telling me that a person who's flipping burgers will make more than me? I can't do that. Well, first off, why are you mad that somebody else is getting paid more than you when you should be mad at your employer for what they're paying you and what you agreed to? You don't like the pay, go to where it's favorable. But I have been saying this from Jump Street, guys, and feel free to agree or disagree with me if you want to in the comments. But until the federal minimum wage has risen, you're going to see a lot of signs like this. And if you're like me, you're going to get back to cooking at home, which for me, I love, because again, it was nice to be able to cook back at home and really enjoy myself. But anyway, that's not the point. Some people have unrealistic views. You're right, Kelly. But that's the thing about it. It's not to go too far into it. You know, you want workers, but you don't want to pay them a wage they can live off of. So they either have to take on additional jobs, they have to, you know, get side hustles going. I mean, especially if they have children. Let's not even go near childcare right now. Or if you're working or you're in school, excuse me, that's a whole nother can of worms. But again, imagine if the federal minimum wage was at least $20 an hour. I'll even say 21, 22. At the max, 25. Because that will match current productions right now. It really would. But, hey, agree or disagree with me, feel free to do it in the comments. Moving on, I did want to get to this story. I call these people raccoons. Why do I call these people raccoons? Because I can't say the word I want to say because it's considered hate speech on Instagram, and it's considered hate speech on Facebook and YouTube. So I've come up with a very simple term: raccoons. just minus the RAC, and you'll know exactly what I mean by these people. Fox News has made it a point to find Candace Owen type people, Jesse Peterson type people, to sit there and have stuff that fits their views. This man on critical race theory is no different.
Yeah, because they're very invested in this whole idea that the nation was founded on the idea of systemic racism, that it's built into every single institution in America, even in the military. Folks are worried that this is something that they need to address within the military. And we just did a story about how the Navy is underprepared right now, but they're spending a heck of a lot of time on this. What do you think about that?
It's absolutely absurd because nobody really wants to get the real history of it. America was not founded on racism. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, there was slavery going on, but slavery itself was not initially a racist thing. It never was about race initially. So to sit there and take it like America was founded on racism, it's a complete lie. Yeah, there was slavery going on, but slavery was going on in all the world. It never was a race thing. So why are we making it a race thing now?
They always find one, don't they? And yes, he's a conservative YouTuber. I actually looked up his video, and I am not surprised. He is one of those, how can I put this in so many words? You get individuals like this that just, and you guys heard me say this. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard me say this. That, for the simple fact of the matter, conservatives love folks like this. Because I have been saying this for the longest time. I'm not liberal. I'm sorry, let me take this back. I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican. Because I'm damn sure not Republican. But I go after both sides. I say it in my promo all the time. I go after the lefts and rights equally. We're equal opportunists over here. If anything, I'm progressive. So, that being said, that means that for a lot of places, I'm not going to fit in. Especially at conservatives. Conservatives kind of hate me. But that's fine. That's fine. At least they know who I am. But again, imagine, and I'd say before, with a lot of these so-called black conservatives, because to me, black conservatives are like unicorns. You guys really don't exist, but when one pops up, you gotta take a picture with them, I guess. But just like Candace Owens, who cites herself as conservative, and Jesse Peterson, who cites himself as conservative, and a lot of other people, like I said, it's a lucrative business if you really think about it. Don't believe me? I have been saying this the longest time. Had I turn around tomorrow and I start giving extreme conservative views on anything and everything that I do, trust and believe I'd be on Fox News in less than 48 hours. Why? I'm their type of cat. I would be their type of cat. I'm their type of pawn. I'm their type of Sambo. I am their type of raccoon. Minus the RAC. And trust me, that individual, he will be on some conservative pack because just like everything else, he's that one black friend that all racists love to have. We know that I'm not racist. I got a black friend. Meet the black friend. Just like the white dude. I date black girls. Candace Owens is a black girl. Candace Owens is a black girl that they dated. Just to sit there and say they're not racist. Again, it's lucrative. Do not get me wrong. It is lucrative, and you're right, Kelly. He is an idiot, but it's lucrative. So that's why I was there saying, I was telling a lot of people, it's lucrative on what he would say, just because this is how he gets on. This is the whole thing. This whole thing with him, literally and figuratively, is how he gets. It's his come up. It's how he gets out there. It's how he builds his brand. It's like a reality star that fails at the show, but finds himself getting fame and running with it. Think of him like a male Sarah Palin, if you will. Because trust me, he'll be somewhere else. Because I say this all the time. I invite black conservatives on this. I invite black conservatives on the show all the time. There was one even had a discussion with, but he kept on jumping subjects. Because I love talking to black conservatives. You know why? They never stand on facts. They stand on subjects and keep moving the goalposts, because when they realize that you're intellectual and you actually argue back with facts, they stop talking to you. And silence is a wonderful thing. But moving right along, guys, I did want to talk about a few other things before we call it a night here. Chuck Schumer, Cory Booker, and another Democrat. Sounds like a bad joke I'm about to tell, right? Are finally starting to turn the tide on marijuana, although albeit too late, with a new bill that they're pushing forward to decriminalize marijuana. It's actually a true thing.
all joining together to release draft legislation to end the federal prohibition on cannabis. This is monumental because at long last, we are taking steps in the Senate to right the wrongs of the failed war on drugs. I was the first Democratic leader to come out for the legalization of marijuana, and I will use my clout as majority leader to make this a priority in the Senate. As my colleagues and I have said before, the war on drugs has really been a war on people, particularly people of color. The Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act would help put an end to the unfair targeting and treatment of communities of color by removing cannabis from the federal list of controlled substances. This is an idea, it's not just an idea whose time has come, it's long overdue. We have all seen the agony of a young person arrested with a small amount of marijuana in his or her pocket. And because of the historical overcriminalization of marijuana, they have a very severe criminal record they have to live with their whole lives. Tougher to get a job, tougher to get credit, tougher to live a normal life. The waste of human resources because of the historic overcriminalization has been one of the great historical wrongs for the last decades. And we are going to change it. We are going to fight hard to change it. And America is on our side. 70% of Americans now support legalizing adult use of marijuana. In the 2020 election, it was put on the ballot by petition in South Dakota, and even South Dakota, one of the most conservative states in America, a majority voted to legalize adult recreational use of marijuana. If South Dakota can do it, the Senate should be able to do it. And we're going to fight to make sure it happens.
Yes, although you're about 2 decades too late, but hey, better late than never. The thing about it is, I have been saying this since Colorado has shown how to successfully decriminalize marijuana. It's been the same thing was done for alcohol, the same thing was done for tobacco. You want to decriminalize it, legalize it and tax it. Marijuana is the next gold rush. Don't believe me? Look at how Denver, New Jersey, now New York, I think 6 other states are legalizing. I think Oregon, yeah. So yeah, 5 other states besides them have legalized marijuana. And at the same time, those very same states, all business is booming. They have a surplus of money. Keep in mind, the cannabis industry is $7.5 billion. 7.5 billion as of last year. Billion with a B. So again, I have been saying this a long time about marijuana. Like I said, I don't smoke it. Got plenty of friends and family who do. I've been saying that I have been touting that marijuana has many applications in the medical field, as well as the mechanical and patent industry. I have been saying how many ways we can turn around and use that plant, and I've been saying how many ways it can be legalized to bring in more money. I have also sat there and said at the same time you can decriminalize those that have been put in jail on marijuana-related charges and have their records expunged, as well as having marijuana removed from the banned substances list, so no longer can you have to worry about going to a job to get piss tested because you smoke marijuana. Because marijuana does a lot of things. It certainly does not empower you. But again, with the Democrats, I have been saying this for the longest time. You guys have great progressive ideas. But when it comes to finally getting it through over the goal line, I'm holding my breath, considering the fact that the George Floyd Police Reform Act still hasn't been pushed through. The John Lewis For the People Act hasn't been pushed through. And on top of that, the whole thing about, the whole study into reparations for slavery, it still ain't been pushed through. These are 3 things that you guys said that you would do and have yet to do so because you're too busy arguing with each other. I mean, you're not arguing with Republicans. Republicans don't support any of this. But the infighting is with your own party. And I've been saying this, if marijuana is decriminalized and those who are released from prison get their records expunged, so they are not considered felons when they come out, you will see a massive turnaround, not only in jobs booming, not only in income and infrastructure, but that's the next gold rush. When marijuana is finally legalized across all 50 states, that, my friend, will be the next gold rush for the next foreseeable 2 years. Companies and growing and distribution, good, it'll go like gangbusters. But that's only if the Democrats get together and actually get over the goal line. I'll be surprised to see whether or not they do it. Oh, hey, Miss Tanya, I bet he hasn't experienced one race riot or refused service. No, conservative. That's he. You know what it is, Miss Tanya, about that other guy? He probably has. But like I said, he probably has. But again, when you're conservative and you're a person of color, it's a lucrative business, especially when you're attracted to the camera. When you're conservative, and you're attracted to the camera, and you're saying all the things that they want their people to hear. Trust me, you'll have no problem getting booked. Don't believe me? Look at Candace Owens right now. Candace Owens, like every other conservative right now, is in Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, it's her and Tommy Lauren and Ben Shapiro and the Daily Beast. They're all here. Yay. Anyway, moving right along, guys, I did want to go ahead and get this other story as well. For all those who are going to be expecting a paycheck tomorrow, just to give you a refresher course for the child tax credit real quick.
News for tens of millions of American parents. The new child tax credit, part of the American Rescue Plan, rolls out tomorrow. We take a look at what it means by the numbers. 39 million American households with some 69 million children will receive payments beginning this week, according to the IRS. Couples making up to $150,000 a year and single parents making up to $112,500 a year are now eligible for a credit of $3,000 per child over the age of 6 and $3,600 per child under the age of 6. Now, this is an increase from $2,000 per child, and the age limit for qualifying children has been raised from 16 to 17. Vice President Kamala Harris says that this new tax credit, combined with other measures in the relief package, will lift 5 million American children out of poverty this year, slicing the overall child poverty rate by 50%. Half of the payments will be made over the next 6 months rather than after tax filing next year. This means that eligible families will get $250 or $300 per child each month through December, which proponents hope will help them pay for regular monthly expenses. These new child tax credits are set to expire after this year, but President Biden has proposed extending them through 2025.
So again, for all those that are going to be getting checks, you probably should be receiving them. Again, I'm not too big, like I said before. It helps out those, especially if you have kids, because let's be honest, kids are pretty much like expensive roommates that don't pay any bills. And that's not a knock on children, but that's how most parents feel. Agree or disagree, it's up to you. But it does help out in the long run. But again, I keep on going back to this whole thing about, you know, continuous stimulus payments that should have been happening since the part of this pandemic. Pandemic, not pandemic, because I sound like that stupid movie. If every American was getting $2,000 a $2,000 check a month, just like Bernie Sanders had advised to do, we would be better off, because they kept saying we couldn't afford it. But yet, after 3 stimulus payments and now a child tax credit at the same time, it's hard to say that we don't have the money for it when obviously we do. But again, for all those that are expecting it, definitely go to www.irs.gov to actually track your payments, to know exactly what you'll be getting, and to be able to go from there. So, just letting you guys know. But moving forward, I did want to talk about the, I did want to actually talk about, of course, Biden withdrawing from Afghanistan, saying the war is over, that, you know, the war has actually been over for a very long time. We've been in Afghanistan for at least over 20 years. It's time to call it a day. Okay, I'm trying to put this as nicely as I possibly can. George Bush decided to give his thoughts on this. Yes, I can't make this up.
Insight on what we have just heard from former President George W. Bush about the U.S. exit from Afghanistan. Let's listen.
Sadly, I'm afraid Afghan women and girls are going to suffer unspeakable harm.
Is it a mistake, the withdrawal?
I think it is, yeah. Because I think the consequences are going to be unbelievably bad. And I'm sad. And Laura and I spend a lot of time with Afghan women, and they're scared. And I think about all the interpreters and people that helped, not only U.S. troops, but NATO troops. And they're just, it seems like they're just going to be left behind to be slaughtered by these very brutal people. And it breaks my heart.
All right, we know that his fears about Afghan women and Afghans who helped Americans are very real. Many people connect with that. I'm not sure he's the person to be criticizing others' actions on Afghanistan, but he certainly is a significant voice in this as the person who began the war.
Yes, and by the way, he's not alone. I've been speaking over the last couple of weeks to current military officials in the Pentagon and former folks who served in senior positions, but also commanded forces in Afghanistan. Across the board, they are deeply fearful about the future of Afghanistan. In fact, pessimistic about where this is going to go. So George Bush is not an island on that
They
view.
wonder why the U.S. didn't keep some sort of toehold.
This is the Mark Milley kind of argument, the finger in the dam argument, is that we're nowhere near 135,000 troops like the U.S. used to have there. About 5,000. The Pentagon set a floor of sort of 3,000 to 5,000 just to provide some counter-terror capability, but also to give the Afghan forces some confidence, right? I mean, that's the finger in the dam idea. You take the finger out of the dam breaks. The fear is that where you are now, the dam will break for the Taliban, and you can see them marching across the country. And I have to tell you about women and girls there. I've been to Afghanistan a couple dozen times, and every time I went to girls' schools, because that was the number one thing Afghan people would talk about as a positive development post-U.S. invasion, was the opening of girls' schools, because, of course, the Taliban brutally shut that down. I met with them. These are lovely people, right, who finally got a chance.
Okay, so again, just to point this out, yes, and I kind of agree. I agree with the journalist. I'm like, is Bush really the person that should be giving opinions on Afghanistan? And it's like, I almost wanted to go, that's almost a, bruh. Come on, bruh. I'm going to need you to pick up the phone and dial 1-800, come on now. You, of all people, should not be giving advice about pulling out of Afghanistan when you was the president that got us in this mess. Let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, this is why history is important. Bush invaded Iraq on terrible intelligence, and even admitting so, over 10,000 lives were lost in Iraq and move on to Afghanistan, all because he basically wanted to get Saddam Hussein. And he wasn't even the president that got him. Think about that for a second. Your entire 2 terms was literally war, and you went in there under false pretenses. So when a president 2 terms later, well, technically 3 terms. Trump didn't get a second, thank God, at least for now. But anyway, 2 presidents later, Biden decides it's the end. We are no longer needed here because we came here for Osama bin Laden. We got bin Laden. And then for 20 years, you tried to destabilize the Taliban. You tried to eradicate them like they were disease, and come to find out they're more resilient than cockroaches. So it got to a point where it's like we are basically occupying a country. We are exactly the thing that we were supposed to be fighting against. So of course Biden sat there and said, I think it's high time that we called it. No longer for us to be here. And you know what every chicken hawk is saying? Oh, we shouldn't do that. What about the Afghanians? Well, we invaded them. It's time to leave. Would they have said the same thing about Vietnam? Vietnam was losing battle, but you don't hear them say, I mean, even when they made the decision to leave Vietnam, I didn't the whole talk of, oh, we should stay there, we should fight. No. Sometimes it is best to know when it's time to leave from the table. Withdrawing from Afghanistan is the smart move. But what about the Afghan forces and Taliban? It is their country. This is going to be very cold to say, but it's their country. It is their country. They have to figure it out. I mean, we didn't go over and help Egypt when Egypt overthrew their president. We didn't go to Brazil. We didn't go to Brazil and Rio when they were having war torn. We didn't go over to Peru. We didn't go over to all these other countries that overthrew their governments. Did we jump into that mess? No. You know why? Because there was no need to. We're not the world police. I mean, for a lot of people, look up your history on this. If you think I'm kidding, look up the entire history of the U.S. as a whole. And I guarantee that you'll find less than 30 years. You'll find less than 30 years at any point that the U.S. was not involved in a war. That, I kid you not, I looked this up myself. Look up 30 years from now. There, in the entire U.S. history, this is why history is important. In the entire current U.S. history, we've had 30 years where there wasn't a war. But any other period in time, we were in a war. We're war tired. I mean, there's a lot of us that are tired. There's a lot of us who serve, and you know, if you serve, thank you for your service. No, you know, definitely that. But there is no need to stay in a country that we have no reason to be in. Aside from the military-industrial complex that makes money off war profiteering. Really, Vaughn? You gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them. War is money. Yes, war is money. War profits, especially with weapons manufacture, things of that nature. You're exactly right, sir. War is money. But, you know, I mean, look at Halliburton, look at Dick Cheney, look at all those private military contractors that were sent in. Yes, war is money. I mean, it was kind of funny if you guys don't remember the old movie Nicolas Cage, Lord of War, and Lord of War, or the more recent movie with Jonah Hill, War Dogs. Case in point, that the military-industrial complex made buku bucks off the Afghan and Iraq wars. But again, out of the many decisions that Joe Biden has made, I don't disagree with this one. For the simple fact of the matter is, America's tired of war. I mean, we're too busy fighting a war at home. We're too busy fighting a war at home, and we're not getting back up. But again, I just think Bush is the last person to talk about when to pull out. Pause. That being said, guys, we're going to keep on moving this forward. Like I said before, I did agree how Biden decided to pull out of the war of Afghanistan. However, Biden has also decided to talk about his progressive policies when it comes to either defunding the police or you know, when it comes to, you know, crime and crime rates at home. And I have to say, this is probably the one time I'm going to disagree with Biden.
Today with the president's pitch to curb gun violence, NBCNews.com senior White House reporter Shannon Pettypiece here with me now. So Shannon, who was at today's meeting? What's the president's plan here? Fill us in on all the juicy details.
Well, he met with a number of local law enforcement leaders, elected officials, as well as some community leaders. Among those, I will note, is the newly minted Democratic mayoral nominee for the city of New York, Eric Adams, who was also among the group. And the message that the White House was trying to convey here is that the president is trying to take some actions, not just to address the issue of gun violence in the long term, but also in the short term, and listen to some of the things that these local officials are calling for. Among the things we just heard from officials suggesting were increased ATF enforcement to get illegal guns off the street now, a new strike force that's being discussed with the Department of Justice to try and go after criminals. Here's a little bit more of what the president had to say before the meeting began.
Well, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. We know there are some things that work, and the first of those that works is stemming the flow of firearms used to commit violent crimes. It includes cracking down on holding rogue gun dealers accountable for violating the federal law.
And the president is also pushing for some of this $350 billion that went to state and local governments in the COVID relief bill to be used for police hiring.
Because the president is polling pretty poorly on violent crime. Just 38% of people approve of how he's handling it, 48% disapprove. That's according to an ABC News Washington poll out this month. The White House wants to change that. They want to paint the president as pro-police, tougher on crime. You mentioned they're pushing the $350 billion in state and local funding under his COVID aid law to keep police employed. What else are they doing? How else are they trying to push back against this sort of Republican attack on where they stand when it comes to supporting the police?
Right, and Republicans tell us that they certainly plan in 2022 to use this wave of violent crime against the president and against Democrats. Whether or not that will be successful, we'll see. They tried it in 2020, and it didn't necessarily work for them, but they will make an effort at that again. One of the messages we have heard coming from the White House increasingly is trying to flip the table, or flip the script on Republicans and argue that Republicans are the ones who want to defund the police because they voted against that $350 billion in COVID relief money for state governments, and also going back and citing other votes by Republicans to cut police funding through a separate federal program. So the White House is certainly very aware of the need to message on this, that what is going to resonate best with voters is painting the president as someone who is pro-law enforcement and pro-police and not an advocate of this defund the police movement.
You were doing so well, Joe. You were doing so well. You were doing so well, Joe. You literally was doing so well. And then when you have the moment to shine, when you have the moment to sit there and say, we are going to curb what happened to George Floyd, we're going to curb what happened to Eric Gardner, we're going to curb what happened to Philando Castile, we're going to curb what happened to so many others, you had it. And then you turn around and you say, I'm pro-police. Oh, wow. Well done, Joe. And you know what? What's so interesting about this, and I've been saying this, people have came out and said, oh, that's old crime bill, Joe. Remember the 94 crime bill? Remember the three strike Joe? Remember, they were trying to push harder on criminals and repeat offenders and crack cocaine possession and all this stuff. Remember, that was Joe. He was the architect. He was the guy that was behind this. And remember, you guys wanted to elect him as president, and you don't think he's going to do the same thing? Joe just validated him. Because in this $3.5 billion infrastructure bill, he is now saying he wants to use a portion of it to hire more police to curb crime. Here's the problem. Progressive people who are of the progressive nature are not going to like that. We wanted the police to be trained, to be screened, to be trained in de-escalation, to be trained in special needs acknowledgement and recognizing. We wanted them to be less lethal. We wanted them to be, everything short of a paramilitary force. That's what we wanted. We never said, that's what people say here, defund the police. It's like, no, defunding the police is just a nice way of saying we want our police to be reformed, as many other countries have done and found success with. But Joe decided to revert back to 94 crime bill Joe and say that more police are needed. But he didn't say anything about police needing to be retrained. He didn't say anything about police needing to, police outreach programs to actually connect with their communities and things of that nature. He didn't say it. All you heard was he's pro-police and not of the progressive movement to reform the police. Joe, that's going to hurt you in the midterms, dude. I'm not going to lie to you. In the 2020 midterms, you don't think that the Republicans are going to use that against you? Because trust me, they will. But what you guys saying, strike force? Yeah, Vaughn. They were, a strike force that goes after guns that are being sold illegally. Yep, they are going to do that. Everything short of a late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, everything short of a late 80s, early 90s stereotype. Yeah. And here's the thing, I can't argue. I used to sit there and say the whole time, no, Joe hopefully will not make the same mistakes he did with the 94 crime bill. I would hope. Him being the president, him being the point of the spear, him being the guy, the it man, is reiterating 94 crime bill vibes. But who did he talk to? Law enforcement? He didn't speak to community leaders. He didn't speak to those, the Black Lives Matter movements. He didn't speak to those who were wanting to have police reform. You know who he spoke to? Mostly police. Think about that for 1 second. Police, being the fact that they are the ones that are always being served to protect, are the most protected group of people outside of white women in this country. Think about this. Here's the level of protection in the U.S. Police, white women, everybody else. Then somewhere down at the bottom, black folks. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, I'll take it all back. But police get more protection than a white woman at an NBA basketball game. Tell me I'm wrong. But I'm disappointed, Joe. I am disappointed because now that's gonna come back to haunt you, and unfortunately, it's gonna come back to haunt Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, because now she's got to defend that decision of yours to hire more police after the fact of the matter. You just sat there and said that there needs to be police reform. Good luck. That also being said, guys, I did want to get to this other story that I also found interesting, because if you're like me, I'm a car nut. I love vehicles. I have a list of vehicles I always wanted to get, whether or not I came up on a good job, whether or not my podcast took off, or whether or not I hit the lottery. But I have a list of vehicles that I always wanted to purchase and have my own little fleet in the backyard. I know my girlfriend's like, that's the reason why we have to get out in the country. Touche. That being said, you're probably wondering why the price of cars is so high these days. Well, because there's a car shortage.
Are scrambling from coast to coast. A limited supply of sedans and SUVs is driving prices sky high, and cars are flying off the lots. Here's CBS's Anna Warner.
The lot looks full at this Ford dealership in Walnut Creek, California, but General Manager Cameron Savarani says most of these cars are used. Just a handful are new.
Your stock of new cars is not going to fill this lot, is it?
Correct, it's not.
Which is amazing.
It is. It's definitely something we haven't seen before.
Inventories are depleted and demand outpaced supply in the second quarter this year. The primary cause? Shortages of microchips, batteries, and steel. So manufacturers are making fewer cars. Through May this year, Ford's output dropped by 325,000 cars. GM's went down 278,000. And Stellantis, formerly Chrysler, dipped 252,000. Everything's selling fast. And buyers are paying more. Average car prices spiked more than $2,000, up over 7% from a year ago. SUVs cost roughly $3,800 more, up nearly 10%.
Dealers are not making the deals that they used to make.
Industry analyst Todd Turner.
They're becoming basically order takers. Customers are going in, they're waiting for whatever car shows up, and they're rushing in to get it before someone else does.
A lot of them are basically pre-selling, where customers are putting deposits on them before they even get here.
Were you surprised?
Yeah, I was, because we're thinking, we may just take this now. And
yeah, you're thinking, I'll just buy this one, right? And they said, what, no?
He says, no, that's the only one they have on the lot, and there's 50 people that want to buy the car already.
When will the shortage ease? Analysts expect car buying to return to normal at the end of this year, possibly early next year, as more chips are produced and auto manufacturers can replenish their inventories. But whether prices will drop remains to be seen, Nora.
Crazy, isn't it? That because of computer chips, steel, that manufacturers have risen prices, and let's be honest, in the world of demand and price, demand goes high, so does the pricing. Same way with gas. I remember a while back here for all those I remember here in Tennessee, we had a gas scare because the main pipelines were being shut down because of the cyber attack. And I remember I was telling everybody, don't panic, because if you panic and everybody tries to go get gas at the same effing time, it's going to cause a shortage. And a lot of these gas stations around here, a lot of them are franchise owned, up the price. Why? Because they can do so. Now technically price gouging is illegal, but they can knock up the price because how much you want to pay for gas. Same with cars. Either way you look at it, whether you go to a dealership, whether you go to Carvana, Turo, Car Gurus, however, car shortages are everywhere. And what do you say, Vaughn? White men trump white women. I can agree with that. We drove past many car lots going to Biloxi. Most were empty. Yeah, because cars are getting bought up. only because, I mean, the prices are up. If you're a car salesman right now, it's Christmas for you. Don't get me wrong. But if you're somebody else that is needing to find a car, you find a late model, that's probably the best you're going to do for right now. So, again, cost and demand. There's just no other way I could put that. Aside from waiting until next year to probably purchase as chips and things get produced, this just goes to show you that everything is connected. And my list of cars is going to have to wait. Beyond that, guys, I just want to go ahead and say that's going to be it as we go to our feel-good segment, because usually on How the Frack We Got Here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you wonder if the world is just going to be ending the same way the dinosaurs. But what we try to do in the middle of the week, because tomorrow is Friday Eve, which is Thursday, we try to give a little hope, a little smiles, try to make you feel good about something, because, again, it's hard to do that. So that's why I like to say, we have our feel-good moments at the end, so we want to leave you out here on a good note. Last year, car prices were low. Yeah, you ain't lying, Vaughn, but now they are freaking high. So that's the reason I gotta wait. But with that being said, I did want to cover this story. There is no video, so I'm just going to go ahead and paraphrase this as quickly as humanly possible. An owner of Ohio pizzeria gives a full day of sales to employees to show his gratitude. That's right, y'all. Sometimes you don't gotta give a pizza party to your employees. Let them know that you care. Money works. The owner of this pizzeria, Heavenly Pizza, decided that he wanted to do an employee appreciation day. All sales from his appreciation day would not be going to Heavenly Pizza, his business. It would go to his employees. So on that day, they brought in close to 220 orders for a total of $6,300 in sales and $1,200 in tips, in which he was going to divide amongst the staff. So each employee there made, at that point, $78 per hour. And I'm sorry, after 8 to 10 hours of working at $78 an hour, that's a good freaking day. He wanted to sit there and show his appreciation of this, saying that, his employees have been, quote unquote, his employees have been so great during COVID, during the pandemic, the season of uncertainty. They've been just fantastic. They show up every day. They're here in a good mood. We want to take a day and appreciate them. And I thought that was cool because, again, you guys could literally and figuratively do the math on this. 8 to 10 hour day, $78 an hour. Not a bad day. Not a bad day, actually, for 10 hours. 10 to 11 hours. I'm just spitballing here because it's a pizzeria. But I have been saying this the same way that, Dan Price on Twitter says the same thing. If you appreciate your employees, they work better. At the same time, they work better for you, which means the company's better. If you don't try to nickel and dime them like Amazon does, or if you don't try to nickel and dime them like Walmart does, and actually does treat their employees better than, the same way Costco does, you'd be surprised what your employees will do for you. But, hats off that small business owner to decide that, for one day, he's going to take care of his people. So kudos to you. The world is burning. Yep, we didn't start the fire, Vaughn. The fire's been burning since the world's been turning. Billy Joel. With that being said, guys, I do want to say thank you. That's going to be the end of our podcast. So before I do get out of here, I do want to do some shameless plugging. I do want to start with my buddy Vaughn, who's currently watching this, who actually did some podcasts earlier in the week. I was trying to catch up on him before this podcast started, but let me get to him. The Vaughn Weatherspoon on Facebook, Big Busy 8 out on socials, has what he calls Smoking Trailer Sundays from 6:30 to 9 p.m. What are Smoking Trailer Sundays? Well, Vaughn is a movie guy, similar to me. Him and me have that in common. We both love movies. But what he tries to do, he tries to bring the newest movie trailers and video game news, and he pretty much, wants to inform you. Think of it like Entertainment Tonight, except done by black people. Some video trailers are good. Some of them I question heavily, but hey, he's my friend. I still love him to death. He also does have the RAF, which is like America's Funniest Home Videos are done by World Star. That is also from 6:30 to 9 p.m. every Tuesday. Now, what is RAF? Like I said before, it's America's Funniest Home Videos done by World Star. So that means that it's definitely a Brand Not Bring Your Kids. And I think he had an all Karen one this Tuesday I was still watching. I thought that was funny as all get out. But definitely love that. But definitely check him out, The Vaughn Weatherspoon on Facebook, Big BZ8 out on all socials. And definitely like, share, and subscribe to my podcast, Brother in Arms. Now, as far as yours truly, I do have my own podcast link. There at the bottom in red, if you copy and paste that into your browser, will take you to my link tree for all of my podcasts. For How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit Podcast, and the Off Limits Podcast. They all have YouTube and Facebook groups in that link, so definitely copy and paste, open it up, like, share, subscribe, let everybody know, because I'm trying to build this thing to where everybody can enjoy it. Aside from that, guys, the podcast schedule still hasn't changed. We're still doing our Wednesday, Friday, Saturday routine of all our podcasts, so definitely check them out. And aside from that, guys, the last thing I'll say, like I said before, COVID-19 is real. If you haven't got your shot, what are you waiting on? I mean, I don't mean this in a joking manner. I just mean to say, literally and figuratively, what are you waiting on? I mean, you've seen what happens with misinformation. Misinformation kills. Whereas if you're misinformed, this is the golden age of information. You can call up you can telecommunicate a doctor. You can talk to a doctor on FaceTime. You can go to a medical professional. You can go to any site that has the vaccine and see all the information in it. There's many YouTubes out there from certified doctors who explain how the viruses, how the vaccines work, and explain what you can expect possibly as side effects. There is so much valid information out there that you only have to use your fingertips to look. That's all I'm saying. Aside from that, please stop saying I'm not gonna get the vaccine if you don't have an answer for it, because the only answer I can think of without getting the vaccine is death. That being said, guys, the last thing I'll say about how the Frack we got here is, like I said before, well, actually, before I get to that part, I do want to sit there and say, if you have the ability to make anybody's life happy or great, whether it's a minute, day, hour, or the rest of their lives, go ahead and do so. The world can use more random acts of kindness. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't cost much to be kind, and I don't mean always money. Sometimes just doing just something to make somebody smile. That's it. And also, guys, last thing I'll say about how the Frack we got here, it's all about staying informed. This whole podcast is not about, persuading people, changing their minds. We're just doing what the news stations of old used to do. Basically give you all the information while you make up your own mind. Because we do better as a society when we're informed. When we're informed, we actually do smart things. We get progressive. We actually elect our first Madam Vice President who is black. When we're uninformed, we get Trump. And if we keep that up again and decide not to listen to our history, we can repeat ourselves. And trust me, the last thing you want to do is give Trump a second chance. Aside from that, guys, take care of yourselves and each other. And if you're watching this podcast on repeat, please comment if it's live. I still want to know what you guys think. Aside from that, guys, have a good night. Be safe. Peace.